and CISS team. On behalf of Center for International Strategic Studies, we welcome you to our seminar today on 25 years of Youm-e-Takbeer and Pakistan's journey towards socio-economic development, peace and security. We will begin the proceedings with a recitation from the Holy Quran.
In the name of Allah, the entirely merciful, the especially merciful. وهو الذي أنزل من السماء ماء فأخرجنا به نبات كل شيء فأخرجنا منه خضرا نخرج منه حبا متراكبا ومن النخل من طلعها قنوان دانية وجنات من أعناب والزيتون والرمان مشتبها وغير متشابه انظروا إلى ثمره إذا أثمر وينعه إن في ذلكم لآيات لقوم يؤمنون. And it is He who sends down rain from the sky, and we produce thereby the growth of all things. We produce from it greenery, from which we produce grains arranged in layers, and from the palm trees of its emerging fruit are clusters hanging low. And we produce gardens of grapevines and olives and pomegranates, similar yet varied. Look at each of its fruit when it yields and at its ripening. Indeed, in that are signs for the people who believe.
And elucidate the significance of Pakistan's decision to go nuclear and on emerging strategic scenarios directly impacting South Asian regional strategic balance. This discussion will also discuss the nuclear journey of Pakistan and its achievements and goals in the peaceful uses of nuclear energy. Before we start formal session, I would like to present the order of the seminar. Ambassador Naqvi will give welcome remarks. We have three esteemed speakers, Professor Zafar Nawaz Taspan, Dr. Atiyali Kazmi, and Ambassador Aftab Khokar. Ambassador Naqvi is the founding member of Center for International Strategic Studies. Earlier, he was part of Pakistan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and represented Pakistan all over the world, and was also appointed as advisor to Pakistan Atomic Energy Commission. Over to you, sir.
It's indeed a very great pleasure to welcome the participants and our research team to this seminar, which is being held to commemorate the 25th anniversary of Youm-e-Takbeer and entitled Pakistan's Journey Towards Socio-Economic Development, Peace and Stability. 25 years have passed since that fateful day when we held our nuclear tests. It was against the backdrop of the Indian nuclear test undertaken just 2 weeks ago on May 11th. It is an edifying story of what was the strategic environment, and we dealt with it and how we dealt with it.
Sorry, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
I was saying, and this is my welcoming remark, I welcome you, of course.
Thank you, sir.
The backdrop of the Indian nuclear tests undertaken just 2 weeks before, roughly 2 weeks before, on May 11th. It is an edifying story of what was the strategic environment and how we dealt with it. I was there in the Foreign Office at that time and was witness to much of it. But I'll call upon somebody who can describe it much better than I can. Dr. Zafar Nawaz Jaspal, professor at Quaid-e-Azam University. However, I wish to make a few points regarding our nuclear program. In the first place, Pakistan began its nuclear journey not from a classified security program, as for example Israel or North Korea. We began our program for our socio-economic development, benefiting from the US initiative Atoms for Peace. We were one of the first 3 countries to benefit from it. Even India was not in that list. Pakistan and Turkey were the 2 Muslim countries, and the third one was Israel, of course. This resulted in what? A great opportunity, a very wide open opportunity for our young people at that time, our scientists and engineers, to go to Western centers of learning and to acquire knowledge in the peaceful uses of nuclear energy, which resulted in the development of our power generators, agriculture and medical facilities. It also was the time when the IAEA was established, when the Pakistan Atomic Energy Commission was established, and we sent out literally hundreds of our young students who later became big names in our atomic program. At the same time, we carried out certain actions in the United Nations at the multilateral level. We sponsored 2 resolutions, one on nuclear weapon-free zone in South Asia, and the other negative security assurances for non-nuclear states. When I went to the UN in 1983, we were still sponsoring those resolutions, despite the fact that India had already held its nuclear test, first nuclear test in 1974. We continued on our path of peaceful uses. We set up Kanu, Nigbi, Noori, and a whole range of facilities in agriculture and medicine all over Pakistan, from Karachi to Peshawar. We had then a second war with India in 1971. The 1965 war happened, but we continued on the path of nuclear energy for peaceful uses. But when the 1971 war occurred, we realized that we were in a very, very serious danger of our very existence. So then we began our own classified program, and we developed nuclear capability, which means what? We developed centrifuges which were cascaded, and we developed fissile material which was available for, it was weapons grade fissile material. So we gave thought to developing a classified military weapons program, and by all accounts, we seem to have developed a nuclear capability by around mid-80s. But we exercised restraint, Pakistan exercised restraint, till 1998, when India conducted the second round of its nuclear tests on May 11, 1990. We then responded on May 28, and in a very effective manner. Now that many years have passed and our deterrence has held, in whatever form, I mean, there have been dangers and threats all along, but the deterrence has held so far. it is, and we have kept pace with India in our military program. We have not let that particular pursuit flag. We are now in a position to revert back to the broader and original objective of developing our peaceful uses program for our socio-economic development. So this is in a very, very brief manner I have outlined to you the genesis of Pakistan's nuclear program, the threat that it encountered and how it dealt with it, and the continuation of the peaceful uses program now in this day and age. This is the broad picture of how Pakistan looks at its nuclear program, and I thought I'll just outline it for you. We have today three very outstanding speakers. We will begin with Dr. Zafar Nawaz Jaspal, who is a recognized scholar and expert on the subject of Pakistan's nuclear program, as well as the geopolitics of the region, and so many other things which he has acquired through knowledge and expertise over all these years. Then we have Dr. Atiya Kazmi, our Director of Research, who is again a very able scholar and a great addition to the team there at CISS, and knowledgeable about the subject of nuclear matters, issues. And then finally, and not the least, but in fact perhaps the most important contributor to our discussion today, in terms of the fact that he is at the center, at the world center of nuclear matters, our ambassador to the International Atomic Energy Agency, Ambassador Aftab Khokhar, who will be online with us to tell you about Pakistan and the IAEA. So we will then round up the picture with these three outstanding speakers and their presentations.
Excellency, Ambassador Naqvi Saab, it's a great honor and pleasure for me to be here, and it's in a new facility. It's really good and beautiful, and especially after long interval, I reached at a place, CISS, the start of the CISS, when it was in FA. Even at that time, the trouble of parking was lesser. And when you reach to this other place, we forgot that, but today it's an actually. And it's a very new beginning, and I'm happy that you invited me on a very important day and on a very important issue. Thank you very much for your kindness. And Naqvi Saab has been always a guide, mentor or spirit for my work, and since long I'm benefiting from his experience, and definitely you people will be. Besides this, that if I see on this, I think except 3-4 people, remaining all will be sitting in my class sometime. So they start feeling, okay, where we are, Akeli is here. So same repeated sort of thing. But I try to give them a different spirit. Sir, you gave me a topic, South Asian Strategic Environment and Nuclear Test in 1998. I have divided this by raising 3 important issues. First is, because South Asian strategic environment is not in an isolation. It is a part of global strategic environment. So the trends which were taking place at the global level, they had direct impact or no impact on South Asia. So this is the biggest question. General understanding is that the global strategic environment directly influences the regional strategic environment, and especially South Asian region. No, but in this context, when we look about the 1998, there seems some kind of a disconnect from the global strategic environment and the South Asian strategic environment. So this is my first point. If I forget, you can raise the question. That how I look this disconnect with a very clarity. Second important thing. What are the reasons for this disconnect? Is there was any kind of a transformation within the South Asian strategic environment? There was a big transformation has been taking place in India at the political level. And when we see the Indians' nuclear program starting from the beginning to date, we cannot, you can say, underestimate the domestic variable of the decision-making of why the state acquired the nuclear weapons. So that was the more important rather than the regional environment. The third is, what was the Pakistan's response? Naturally, Pakistan was influenced by its neighborhood or a regional strategic environment. So my understanding of these four issues is, and it's a very important point, that even at that time, whatever the reasons could be, we can debate that. And even today, Pakistan is a reluctant nuclear power. First, it wasn't interested. That's why we were talking about nuclear weapon-free zones and talking about number of the nuclear restraint proposals in the 93 onward. And even today, we are a nuclear power, but still we believe in a nuclear restraint regime proposal or restraint proposal. So that reflects a reluctance that we are not interested in a nuclear arms race. There could be hundreds of reasons for it, but this is a factor which we have to take into account. Now coming back to my first point, international strategic environment. If we trace the history of the nuclear weapons from 1945 or from 1940, I agree from 1920s, 30s, there was a realization, the first regulatory attempt was made, but the real nuclear history started in the 1940s. From 1940, starting with the first United Nations Security Council, United Nations General Assembly resolution in 1946, and then coming up to the demise of the former Soviet Russia, end of the Cold War, you would find that the global strategic environment was such as where nuclear weapons had an acceptability. Nuclear non-proliferation regime has only an acceptability to keep intact the 5 nuclear weapon states in the nuclear club. That was the NPT Article 9 Clause 3. The entire work within the non-proliferation domain was that. Apart from that, you would find no. But 90s was an interesting kind of era. In the 1990s, we have seen 1994, Budapest Memorandum of Understanding, denuclearization of Ukraine, left over the 1700. We have seen South Africa joining the NPT as a non-nuclear weapon state, setting a first time an example that a state with the nuclear weapons can join the NPT, but first dismantling its nuclear weapons, willfully bringing entire nuclear program under the IAEA safeguards. Then we have seen North Korea, it joined the NPT or something like that. But when we reached to the 1995, NPT was extended for an indefinite period. So the nuclear order, global as well as regional order, was extended for an indefinite period. But for that, there were many, you can say, developments which germinates an impression that the nation or the nations or the American-led world or the who is who, they were supportive to the nuclear non-proliferation regime. Then you would find, in order to support this, you have to keep in mind start one, start two. So cutting down the sort of a thing. Then you would also find that even there was a debate of national missile defense system in the US, but the Clinton administration, despite recommendations coming from the Rumsfeld Commission, they did not move ahead on missile defense system because otherwise they had to exit from the 1972 Avian Treaty. However, later on they did, after 2001 and 2002, they exited. But this is why I'm highlighting. The trend was at the global level not in favor of nuclear weapons proliferation, whether vertical or horizontal. Now I come to the horizontal 2 points. In the domain of horizontal, there were negotiations and opening up of signing of comprehensive testbed treaty draft in September 1996. So CTBT, opening for a signing and ratification and entry into force within 3 years, that was meant entirely to keep India and Pakistan out of the club of tested nuclear weapon states. If NPT target states were Japan and Germany in 1960s, CTBT target states were India and Pakistan, and especially Pakistan, because India had a test of 6 KT on May 18, 1974, but still they said it's our peaceful nuclear explosion, not a weapons explosion. So at least to keep these 2 states out of the club, and we were part of observers. Pakistan said if India signs, we will sign X, Y. So that was, and there was another facility to cut off treaty. Resolution was passed in the General Assembly, and these things were there. So my point here is that the global entire environment was conducive for non-nuclear non-proliferation rather than nuclear proliferation, vertical or horizontal. Now comes towards the South Asia. The 1990s, when the demise of or East-West tension ended, there was a hope in the South Asia also that some kind of the dividends will come. If you see in this context, in Afghanistan, new government, tacitly it was asked the Pakistanis to recognize it. The situation was Unicol or these kind of the oil companies were coming. We all were looking something better. And if you see the environment between India and Pakistan, there was some kind of the ambiguity, and the rules of the games were decided in the post-1990s. 1983 cold test, Pakistan was comfortable. 83-84 crisis managed. 86-87 crisis managed. 1990 crisis managed. Though, yes, there is a problem, and that was within the regional or within the Indian context, the Kashmir movement was taken. But it was not a new thing. If you see, from 1930, Kashmir movement or Kashmiris, you can say demand for right of self-determination, you trace from 1930. First time they demonstrated for Azan rights. And then it continued. Ups and downs you find, sometimes situations favorable, sometimes not. So that kind of thing. So 1990s was for favorable because of the Afghan jihad, all this kind of thing. But on the other side, nothing much. So when I look about the South Asian strategic environment, roughly there was some kind of a big small state relationship. But there was also a transformation in the Indian context from 92 onward. There was a set scene to make India a real great power by the victors of the Cold War. And my here reference is Malabar naval exercise of 92. Agreement signed, and from 94 onward it started. So the thinking started to make South Asia as a part of Asia Pacific, or which have later on defined Indo-Pacific. So trend was there. Brown versus red dragon is there instead of white bear. So there was changing of the, and of course when they start looking at the dragon rather than the white bear, then you can say the focus was more on South Asia. So in the neighborhood of the South Asian strategic environment, things were transforming or challenging. And China was declared directly and indirectly as a new challenger to the American, you can say, supremacy or primacy in the global politics. You can look the 93 clash of civilization, and there the China was in. And then you will see all the International Security Journal discourse, Brown Army versus BMD, NMD, somewhere Rumsfeld Commission directly or indirectly was there. So we can say we're in a nuclear domain, stability, but at the same time, at the global level, there was some kind of a push and pull, and things were moving out, and then reached the 1998. When I see the global strategic environment, I do not find any encouraging factor which lead to a regional nuclearization or overt nuclearization of South Asia. There was nothing serious, or not you can say any development which trigger some kind of a development which leads to nuclearization. I do not find. Second was within the region. I do not find within the regional context. If you look the region as a community, no. Then why nuclear tests happen? This is the question mark. If the region, if security dilemma is not explaining you the major puzzle of the international relations which explain us, or a structural realism which explain us, or the nuclear optimists or nuclear, any theory if you pick it, they do not explain that why May 11 happens. Theoretically and practically, maybe something. But then, if that's the, then why May 11 happens? You have to go for again that if the three level of analysis, international level, regional level, is not permitting you to understand or facilitating to find the answer, then go to the state level. So the state level, when we go, there was a mega transformation in India. In our politics, there were push and pull, new generation of the leadership in the shape of Benazir Bhutto Sahib and former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, young leaders, new things, coming out of the decade of martial law. So we were just learning, push and pulls were taking place. But there was a big transformation in the Indian politics. The Indian politics, BJP started with the 2 seats in 1982. The first time BJP used the word centuries of humiliation, what you call it, concept of nativism, and they used the ideology as a winning point, and the people's suffering as a winning point. So they said, we had a centuries of humiliation, we have to take it revenge. And in order to strengthen this slogan, this centuries of revenge, they started targeting the Muslims. And if you see from 1982 to 1992, Babri Mosque, they started developing this narrative. And in this narrative, BJP brings 3 things very significant. which are still part of their manifesto. First, solidifying the Indian defense. This is number one. If the India's defense is solid, defensive fence is unbreakable, certainly no foreign invasion, no humiliation. So it quite coincides with that. Second, in order to strengthen it, uniform Muslim laws. And third, no more special status for Kashmir. These were the three major things. If you just see that, they strengthen their slogan that we Indians are somewhere Bharatiya Janata has come out of this. And then they started targeting the major factors like what you call it, mosque, X, Y, Z. 92, Babri Mosque, winning. And then they were moving steps. 96, failed to get the majority, failed to get the vote of confidence. But what's the signal? Testing of the nuclear weapons. Within 2 weeks, testing of the nuclear weapons, resign, and next election, okay. So this is the thing which you have to keep in mind when nuclear weapons took place. Second was, in that context, that India's Agni missile program failed, 91 to 98 at that time. In 97, clandestinely, ABG Kalam visited to in Israel, borrowed aero missile technology, mixed it with Scott space launch vehicle technology, cut the second stage of Agni, and first time Agni 1-600. So this was the environment which was adding a variable, and that was, and then comes, when their missiles program was going, Pakistan also tested the warning one. So they said, oh, again our security breach, we need it. It was written on the cards. So in 11th May, they went for nuclear testing. 13th May, they went for nuclear testing, and one of their tests fizzled, which they admitted. So with this, the South Asian strategic environment completely transformed and changed. Now there was an interesting development that if we had a nuclear capability and India just tested again, it had tested in 1974, then what was the shift in the regional strategic environment which forced Pakistan to go for a testing? The shift was, A, India was now nuclear weapon state. At the capability level, both were the same. But perceptions. Pakistan had always maintained nuclear program for a deterrence. And Pakistan's deterrence is required capability, credibility of the communication. The credibility of the communication was challenged on 18th May when Advani said, the South Asian strategic environment has changed after India's nuclear test, and Pakistan has to adjust its Kashmir policy accordingly. So we heard South Asian strategic environment changed on 11th May. So this was a change which had to force Pakistan to go ahead. If the South Asian strategic environment was not changed, why? Because from 83 till that time Pakistan's ambiguity was working. Why Pakistan was forced to move out of this? Because for my deterrence there is a need, my adversary shall realize that I have a capability. But if my adversary is saying that after its nuclear test, strategic environment change, I need to readdress it to avoid the war. And that's why and then there was interesting, the Kashmir was in the domain of Home Minister, with the domain of Prime Minister, it was given to the Home Minister. This shift, you can say, was a reflection of the change of the strategic environment after May 11, not before. and then Pakistan went for a nuclear testing. So that is the thing, and finally we have a two nuclear armed state. Many pro-Indian analysts said India lost its opportunity for great power, becoming a great power or playing a great power role in South Asia on 11th May 1998. Because if we did not test, we were not testing, we were living under the scary role, and balance of terrors replaced the balance of power, and today we are there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Things evolved here, and I think Dr. Jaspal has made it very clear that though we had developed nuclear capability and had maintained ambiguity from 1983, 84 to 98, but in 98 we were forced to respond to India's nuclear tests. So thank you so much, Dr. Jaspal. I now, and there can be further discussion in the Q&A session.
Hello everyone. Thank you so much, sir, for giving me this opportunity to be a part of this panel with my very senior mentors and senior members. And thank you, sir, for covering the strategic environment of South Asia very comprehensively. And we know that Youm-e-Takbeer is primarily celebrated as a day on which we tested our deterrence capability. Another side of the coin is equally important, that appreciates the arduous nuclear journey our scientists, engineers, and others have undertaken in last 6 decades for using atoms for peaceful purposes and sustainable socio-economic development. This tryst with nuclear energy is older than the choice we reluctantly made for developing deterrence capability. We created Pakistan Atomic Energy Commission in 1956, took the Atoms for Peace offer, and later joined International Atomic Energy Agency in 1957 as one of its founding members. So there is a lot to celebrate on this day. In reference to the topic that I am covering today, 3 questions are very important to be asked. First, owing to the imperatives of climate change, how is nuclear energy resurging, especially after fears related to Fukushima nuclear accident? Secondly, what challenges and opportunities emerge from this revival? And third question is that what's the situation for Pakistan and what measures we can take to address these challenges and benefit from the opportunities. So how is nuclear energy resurging? I will cover the situation as well as key challenges and opportunities of this revival. If we quickly look at the history, the United States, with the consent of the United Kingdom, used atomic bombs in August 1945 after Japan rejected the Potsdam Declaration that demanded its unconditional surrender. The bombings killed between 129,000 and 226,000 people, most of whom were civilians, and who always remained the only use of nuclear weapons in an armed conflict. Then Russia, UK, France, and China also developed their nuclear weapons. There was an estimate that around 25 states would make nuclear weapons, but due to the non-proliferation treaty and other measures like extended deterrence commitments, only 9 emerged as nuclear-armed states. The majority of states entered the NPT Grand Bargain of getting nuclear technology for peaceful purposes in return for not making nuclear weapons. The NPT's nuclear powers promised to disarm, but did not give any clear timeline. Therefore, many countries started to pursue peaceful applications of nuclear energy, such as electricity generation and medical research. The first commercial nuclear power plant was opened in 1956 in England, followed by many others around the world. But by 1990, there were more than 400 nuclear reactors operating in 31 countries, providing about 17% of global electricity. Today, nuclear power is still a significant source of electricity, accounting for about 10% of global output. However, its share has declined since its peak in the late 1980s due to factors such as aging reactors, safety concerns, public opposition, high costs, and competition from other energy sources. Some countries decided to phase out or reduce their reliance on nuclear power, especially after the Fukushima accident in 2011, which raised questions about the safety and security of nuclear facilities. On the contrary, some states have continued to even expanded their nuclear programs, seeing it as a reliable and clean way to meet their energy needs and climate goals. Even Japan has revived nuclear energy, and just last week, Finland's electricity price dropped below zero after the country switched on its latest nuclear reactor. That is what the world could have looked like if the Greens did not stop humanity from expanding nuclear power. We must remember that nuclear power is equal to no carbon dioxide emissions. So what's the future? The future of nuclear power depends on many factors, such as technological innovation, policy support, public acceptance, and market conditions. According to the International Energy Agency, nuclear power could play a key role in achieving net zero emissions by 2050, as it can provide large amounts of low carbon base load electricity that can complement variable renewable sources. However, this would require a significant increase in nuclear capacity and investment, as well as addressing the challenges of safety, waste management, proliferation risks, and social trust. The IEA also suggests that advanced nuclear technologies such as small modular reactors and fusion reactors could offer more flexibility and diversity to the nuclear sector in the long term, and provided we achieve this goal. Currently, fission technology reactors are in use around the world. And now something about the second question on challenges and opportunities. Besides aging reactors, safety issues, waste management, and cyber attacks, nuclear revival faces few other challenges that include the economic factors and institutional and governance challenges. Economic factors include high upfront cost, long construction times, uncertain returns, and competition from cheaper renewables. And then institutional challenges may include international sanctions. Among several opportunities in this scenario, first is clean and reliable power generation that can reduce greenhouse gas emissions and enhance energy security. Then is innovation and development in areas such as advanced reactors, small modular reactors, fusion technology, and hydrogen production. Another opportunity is economic growth and job creation through investments, exports, and industrial linkages. And most important is the contribution to sustainable socio-economic development by supporting social and environmental goals such as poverty alleviation, education, healthcare, and biodiversity conservation. This brings me to the answer of the third question on the measures we can take to address these challenges and benefit from the opportunities in Pakistan. So there are two aspects. One is domestic and the other one is international. Among our domestic issues, financial situation is the most serious one. The energy sector is facing a cumulative circular debt of over 4 trillion rupees. Nuclear power plants are also victim of government indecisions with respect to payment of overdue receivables. Of total circular debts, 2.6 trillion rupees is related to the power sector, whereas the stock of petroleum sector stands at 1.7 trillion rupees. As reported in media, the market operator Central Power Purchasing Agency's guarantee has only paid 7.74% of billed amount during April this year. The amount released is insufficient to meet the operational and maintenance expenses of the plants and obligatory contractual payment, including fuel, spares, and labor. By citing this example, I want to point out that the capital cost of establishing nuclear power plants is difficult in the current financial situation. Likewise, it takes more than the usual tenure of a government, 4 years versus 8 to 9 years of constructing a nuclear power plant. This at times affects the political commitment for starting a new project that may be completed in another government's term. Nuclear pessimism is another challenge, and there is a French nuclear pessimist lobby that raises concerns like those of Green Movement on establishment of nuclear power plants. And they have never gained traction, but at times they can retard the process with the legal proceedings. At the international front, Pakistan is not a signatory to the NPT, and being closer to China, it faces resistance from a certain group of countries in gaining access to nuclear technology for peaceful purposes, especially in its candidature of the Nuclear Suppliers Group. I'll share their main reservations one by one, which are 2 reservations right now on my list, and I'll explain them as well. The first one is lack of confidence and trust in the non-proliferation commitments and safeguards. Interestingly, non-proliferation is the main pillar of Pakistan's nuclear policy. Even though we are not members of the 4 exports control arrangements, our national control lists are completely harmonized with their guidelines and control lists. Pakistan is one of the most proactive participants of UNSC Resolution 1540. All our nuclear power plants are under IAEA's Type 66 facility-specific safeguards. Pakistan has been ostracized and targeted with allegations of transferring nuclear weapons technology to other states. Nothing could be farther from the truth. As some famous and credible accounts on nuclear black market show, Pakistan was not involved in the international black market that had around 36 Western and other members. One particular Pakistani did not lead the network, and his activities were outside government work. He was punished for that individual act, whereas other governments did not even check their own people and hushed up the matters. The point being considered here is that Pakistan is denied the technology for geopolitical reasons rather than a tangible proliferation concern. Otherwise, India would never get the NSG waiver and trade offers due to its role. The second and last reservation is that it demands to convert voluntary, unilateral, non-tested commitment into signing the CTBT. As we all know, the answer that Pakistan was not the first to nuclearize South Asia in 1974, and thank you sir, you have covered this aspect as well, and to resume testing in 1998. It just responded to a clear and facing danger to its national security. We offered a bilateral test ban treaty to India and are even an observer of CTBT. NSG is important for Pakistan, but we cannot compromise on our national interests and security. Soon after its 1998 tests, India declared one of claimed thermonuclear tests as a fizzle. This was done to keep the option of resuming testing. Now for several years, various Indians and their influential diaspora have been taking pulse of possible international reactions if New Delhi resumes testing and are sizing up the right time to do this. Therefore, the onus of signing CTBT is not on Pakistan. Also, India gained better access to nuclear technology despite its very irresponsible behavior and proliferation history. Pakistan should not be apologetic in this approach in dealing with this matter. This brings me to few concluding thoughts on the assessment I offered. On every Youm-e-Takbeer, we must refresh and express our resolution to take all measures to deter India and defend our homeland. It is a day primarily associated with deterrence capability, but it is also linked to our comprehensive security, which includes non-traditional dimensions like energy, health, and agriculture. None of the modes of security can be ignored. Pakistan has walked an onerous journey since 1950s. Our nuclear enclave is an island of excellence, and its example is worth emulating in other sectors. The nuclear story is an evidence that nothing is impossible if we are determined and place full faith in the Almighty Allah. We have progressed despite all odds. With unity and wisdom, God willing, we will emerge stronger out of current challenges. I end here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bhatia. First, on the overall issue of nuclear energy, peaceful uses of nuclear energy in the international context, and then specifically in regard to Pakistan and the problems and the challenges that we face, as well as the achievements that we have had. So the message that you have given of a very positive outlook, I think should stand us in very good stead. I now call upon our final speaker this afternoon, Ambassador Aftab Kokar in Vienna, who is, I think, with us online and will be able to make his presentation. Aftab Kokar Sahab, Assalamu alaikum.
Continue with this audio, and I have shared my presentation with the colleague. So Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. First of all, Master Rakbi, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to join this important webinar. And I think Dr. Dispal and Dr. Kazmi have covered two different dimensions of the webinar. Before probably starting my presentation, let me compliment you for this initiative. Because 28th May is an important day in the history of Pakistan. It is a matter of prestige for us. At the same time, it's a question of how we demonstrate as a responsible nuclear weapon state at the global level. My presentation will be limited to the Pakistan's peaceful nuclear technology program, and that is where we say how Pakistan is performing at the International Atomic Energy Agency based in Vienna. So the next one, please. Yeah, everybody is aware of the history, but let me reiterate that Pakistan is the founder member of IAEA since 1957. Our Atomic Energy Commission was formed in 1955, and since 1957 we have been very closely engaged with IAEA in the entire range of nuclear fuel cycle activities. At the moment, we have 6 nuclear power plants, an extensive program for application of nuclear technology and radioisotopes in agriculture. Our Pakistan Atomic Energy Commission is running 20 cancer hospitals, which is a big success story for us in Vienna to portray Pakistan's achievement in the field of health through the use of nuclear technology. Next, please. What are our objectives at the IE? Fundamentally, technical and development and diplomatic 3 dimensions. Technical is an important pillar, and rather the most important pillar of IE's activity is technical cooperation program. And that is used to develop our human resource base through training and capacity building, as well as procurement of equipment, because IE is a platform where we say it is trilateral engagement. Pakistan as a recipient country, as well as possibly as a country providing assistance. IE is a conduit, and then the other country from different parts of the world, especially our focus is from those countries where we can not get any equipment through bilateral channels. IE is providing us that forum to acquire that equipment using IE's platform and giving confidence to the suppliers that this equipment will be used in accordance with IE's safeguards. The second objective is to enhance Pakistan's visibility and recognition of the achievements of peaceful use of nuclear technology. Since '57, we have acquired a lot through this technical cooperation program, and now we are at a stage we are offering other members, particularly from developing countries, to offer our expertise, to share our experience with them, how we have been able to utilize nuclear technology in our nuclear power cycle, in the agriculture sector, as well as health cycle. Another objective is to highlight Pakistan's commitment to a safe, secure and safeguarded civilian nuclear program. This is the key factor where we need always be mindful of that we should project ourselves that we can run any kind of nuclear technology in power sector, in agriculture, and in health sciences in accordance with the IEA safeguarding standards. And that is why we say that Pakistan's peaceful nuclear program is totally 100% under IEA safeguards. That is a point which we always pursue through our discussions and to be part of NSC or any other platform, so that to demonstrate that Pakistan is a responsible nuclear weapon country. Also, an objective is to counter negative propaganda against Pakistan. Dr. Kazmi referred to that point about proliferation issues, and that is where we have come up very strongly when there was incident of the Aqifan network, and she pointed out rightly that only Pakistan took out the action against the individual and punished. No other country, even including European countries, they did not take any action against those individuals who were involved in the proliferation activities. The last objective, I'll say, is to participate, represent Pakistan in the global policy and normative framework in order to formulate global policies providing access to nuclear technology and applications. And that is where Pakistan is championing the cause of developing countries. In 2023, Pakistan is coordinator for G77 chapter in Guyana. And that we are using that platform to promote the objectives of developing countries for access to nuclear technology in order to achieve sustainable development goals, which is the targets 2030. So we are not only projecting Pakistan, but also we are championing the cause of developing countries. Next slide, please. Yes, Pakistan's technical cooperation program is, we say Pakistan has been a major beneficiary of IA's technical cooperation program. But now we have started the practice of presenting a comprehensive program which is based on not on one-year strategy but also a long-term and medium-term strategy, which is being presented now. IE presents our program as a model program which is not covering more than 2 to 3 years, but also how different programs are interlinked with each other. So be it agriculture, health, nuclear power. So we are not presenting our technical assistance requirements in isolation of each other, rather a comprehensive. So now IE has recognized its Pakistan's achievement, and it is presented as one of the success stories in IE's discussions. Next, please. Also, on the sidelines in Vienna, we always try to promote recognition of Pakistan's achievement in the peaceful use of nuclear energy. Look at the two two pictures. One is Dr. Islam. This is in the IA building, which Pakistan donated. On the other side is cotton plant, which we presented to IA last year as a success story, as Pakistan's achievement in utilizing nuclear technology in agriculture, and we were able to produce this special seed of cotton, which is weather resistant, which gives high yield. So again, Pakistan was appreciated for this achievement, and now this cotton plant and this Dr. Islam, it is there for all the visitors coming to Youm-e International Center, and when they look at, they appreciate Pakistan's achievement. Next, please. Also, another approach is to connect Pakistan's institutions with IA and through IA other global networks. So if you look at Pakistan Institute of Engineering and Applied Sciences, CISS, has been designated as IA Collaborating Center to support member states in research. So we, CISS, is offering training programs to other member countries, IA from our region and also beyond our region. So from 2019 to 2023, this has been used, and now another is CISS, which is under Pakistan Regulatory Authority, and that institute has been designated as the IA's Collaborating Center for Nuclear Security Education, and this was done during 2022, and Director General Rafael Grossi, when he visited Pakistan, he was taken to this institute and he appreciated the level of quality of education and training being provided at this institute. Next, please. Another demonstration of our collaboration with IA is that National Center for Non-Destructive Testing, NCNDT, is also a collaborative center which has been approved through a practical arrangement signed between Pakistan and IAEA. Then we have a practical arrangement between PAC and IAEA for 2021-2024, and we are offering different training programs in the area of peaceful use of atomic energy. We also have signed a special agreement for a practical arrangement for the Africa region, because that is the region where we consider Pakistan can provide useful, competitive training facilities, training opportunities in Pakistan to countries in Africa, because Africa is a promising region. It is coming up very successfully in their strive for development, in their strive to achieve SDGs, and Pakistan is matching that demand through offering different training and capacity building programs in our institutions. Next, please. Again, another example of Pakistan's involvement, Pakistan's engagement with IAEA. This is Marie Curie Fellowship Program, and which Pakistan has till now has offered 9 scholarships under this special initiative launched by DG Rafael Grossi. And again, CISS is the institute offering these scholarships, and till now we have utilized this scholarship for our own students. But from this year onwards, we are expecting that international students will also be accepted under this fellowship program at CISS. NIAB is another institute which has been acknowledged by IAEA as part of DG Grossi's Zoonotic Diseases Integrated Action Zodiac Initiative. Again, a success story which has been recognized by IAEA and is protected as Pakistan's success story. Next, please. Last year, DG Grossi launched a new initiative, Raise Up Hope, for cancer treatment. So Pakistan is being considered Pakistan's institute in Mol and Nori. Either of the two will be considered as anchor center for IA's outreach to different countries. Like I said in the beginning, the Pakistan Atomic Energy Commission success in running cancer hospitals throughout Pakistan has been taken as another example of Pakistan's achievement, and this anchor center as part of IEA's global network will be a unique opportunity for Pakistan to demonstrate our achievement in cancer treatment under the rubric of Pakistan Atomic Energy Commission. Next, please. Yes, IEA's policy making organs. If you are aware, Ambassador peacefully has been here as ambassador. He is fully aware of the importance of these organs. First of all, is IEA's General Conference is takes place once in a year. At the same time, there is a board of directors, and we serve at the board of directors since our membership in 1957. Every 2 years term, and then we take a 1 year break and then come back for 2 years term. So this cycle has been maintained so far. Pakistan is representing Middle East and South Asia region in IEA, and every this year we'll complete our term and we'll go out from this board and then come back next year. This continuous engagement through the policy making organs, through the decision making process in IEA, Pakistan has maintained a very important profile, which is Pakistan is considered, Pakistan's advice is sought, and Pakistan's ambassador is always an important player in internal discussions in IEA. Next, please. Again, another story. In 2021, I served as co-chair of the working group on regular budget and technical cooperation plan. So in the history of IEA, this was the first time that this process was completed in a record time, and I delivered the approval of the budget process along with the co-chair from New Zealand. Ambassador of New Zealand was the other co-chair. So we steered that process successfully, and we achieved our objective to ensure that technical cooperation fund, which is a priority for Pakistan as well as G77 countries, we ensure that we achieve the same level of increase which was given in the regular budget. So that is where we demonstrated leadership role in IEA and achieved our objective, not only for Pakistan but also for developing countries. Next, please. So this is the last slide. The way forward is to ensure and continue our coordination between IEA and Pakistan's different institutes, particularly Atomic Energy Commission, National Regulatory Authority, and other collaborative centers which are providing useful training programs to other countries. And also we need to now identify new areas where we can enhance our capacity in Pakistan, not only in nuclear sector, regulatory framework, agriculture, and human health. During Dr. General Grossi's visit last year, where Ambassador we hosted him for a very useful workshop, seminar, DG Grossi addressed that, and I recall meeting with the Prime Minister, and he guided me, instructed me to secure additional projects from IEA for Pakistan. So I am very close to achieving a positive response from IEA in 3 areas. One is providing additional equipment to involve, and also some technology, latest technology equipment for other institutions in Pakistan. Vigilance is also important in order to present Pakistan as a country which is fully cognizant of the nuclear safety, security, and safeguards obligations. And we should continue to present Pakistan as a success story. Our record in IEA is impeccable, and that is where I think the role of Ambassador Naqvi's Institute is very important to raise awareness inside Pakistan about our achievements, about our commitments. If you recall, during Director General Grossi's visit, there was an attempt in the media to shadow the visit as an attempt to undermine Pakistan's nuclear program. So that is where I request that this institute should take a lead in countering such propaganda inside Pakistan. If we are successful inside Pakistan, we will be successful outside Pakistan. With this, I end my presentation. Any question or answer, I'll be happy to be part of discussions. Thank you.
I have always maintained that Pakistan is a very outstanding member of the organization and has always contributed fully both, at two levels. One, the bilateral country level, with the assistance that IAEA, that we can get from IAEA and that IAEA provides to Pakistan. And the other is the international level, where Pakistan and its delegation contributes to the work of the agency. And there I think it's very important how we, like I was very impressed to learn about your co-chair role for the budget. This is a very important contribution to the work of the organization. And there Pakistan has played a very good role, and I am very happy that you have yourself, Ambassador Aftab, conveyed or contributed and conveyed your contribution in a manner that it was useful for the IAEA. So thank you so much. I will now open the floor so that we save on time. I will open the floor for question answers, and I would like.
You said regionally there was no rationale for India to build nuclear weapons, but presently we see India talking about China as a major threat and also talking about two-front war for keeping these weapons. So how do you see, will India fight US war with China in the future, because US is already blessing India with different deals? How do you see this context of China and India relationship? Secondly, Ambassador Aftab, I wanted to ask you that, is there any ray of hope regarding any possibility of Pakistan entering into any export control regimes in the future? Thank you.
Dr. Ispan.
What I pointed out is regionally there was no development, but at the same time it's not correct to say that India, or as you were rightly pointed out, that India has been using China as a reference for its nuclear weapons. Theoretically it makes sense, but practically when we see, we have to be very careful while seeing the factors, you can say, landmark. In 1964, China tested the nuclear weapon. India expressed their desire that within 18 months they were able to test the nuclear weapons. Then we have seen Indian slept over, and ultimately in 1974, when they did a test, it was not for security because their major threat from China was managed by the Russia in 1971. India was enjoying unsaid kind of a nuclear security umbrella after Treaty of Friendship with Russia. China was compromised by 1969 border war. Agreed, if China was a major threat, why India did not announce on 18th May 1974 that this act was for the security. They said it's an act to demonstrate their technological modernization. So that's why China, if the figure in their nuclear program agreed, but these two things do not support. Now coming back to the 1998, from 1974 till 1998, why there was so kind of the suspension. But in the case of China and India, till 2020, I mean Gulwan, China and India rivalry has been mapped by the analyst as a fictitious. It was a fiction, not a reality. So by that way, of course, if they were do, even today, if they have a two-front war, why India is reluctant to prepare it, which it had already announced integrated theatrical command systems, which is one is based in northern, western, and the other one is in the center, and then the southern, and then the maritime. This is my understanding that China is a good scapegoat. My second point of view is that yes, India is by all means today a threshold ally of the United States. I'm using the word threshold alliance. So there is a threshold alliance between the US and India, because if you face friendship and strategic partnership, now it has moved ahead. And this BICA, COMCASA, Lima, all these agreements qualify to refer it's an ally. But anyway, if they are not having a formal treaty of a military alliance, then you can say a threshold ally of the US. This is the first point. Second is that to become a threshold ally, India has to show the China's nuclear posture, which they did, and Gulwan happened, and they got the BICA in the say October 2020. Having said this, that in the Indo-US, while the Americans coined this Indo-US term because they wanted to make the South Asia their part, and India is their regional, and since last 3 decades they have been developing and trying to develop India as a local leviathan to look after their affairs in the region. Earlier Indians were reluctant, and still some Indian voices say that we are losing our strategic autonomy in the strategic domain. However, at the moment, India is becoming a threshold ally of the US. So this is the situation, this is the reality with which we have to live. But there, I was talking about 1998. You are referring to the 2023. So strategic environment today is different from 1998.
Thank you. Master Aftab Coker, there was a question addressed to you, sir.
Yes, I think it's a very good question, but which kind of frameworks we are looking at? If it is about NSG, it is, I think, our effort to pursue our interest in energy is continuing, and we always raise this issue with our interlocutors. But if you are aware of the, as Ambassador must be, this is a bigger political picture in energy. It's not a question of technical. It's the debate is now about the parameters and requirements technically, how to differentiate between members of NPT and non-members of NPT. Of course, the question will come to how India was granted a waiver. That was again a decision taken to favor India. But as far as membership of NSC formal is concerned, it is being debated. Even rather, it is now at the back burner. But we are vigilant and we are pursuing our interests, but we're keeping it to a point where we should not be seen as if we will compromise and will take such obligations which are against our national security. So we are seeking a membership, but without indicating any compromise on our national security. About the other regimes, Wassenaar arrangement and the Australia Group, a code of conduct, it's our national decision when to pursue, how to pursue, but that is where we are holding our point that okay, we are looking at those regimes, we are observing their debates, but the question is, if India is there and then if we seek membership and we are not given, so that is a question for us to be asked, for ourselves in the policy circles. But we need to see what advantages we will get, what disadvantage we have without being inside any regime. So that is a question which we are still debating internally. But I don't see we are losing anything significantly by staying out of this regime. But of course, once we are there, we will have a profile improved and we can present Pakistan as a country. But again, let me remind one thing, we have maintained a consistent position in the UN that we, as Pakistan, always support UN-led initiative. We consider these plurilateral initiatives as a kind of an arrangement outside the UN framework where member states have not been involved in the negotiating process. So there's a kind of argument which we maintain, but at the same time we should keep our doors open for any engagement in future with these regimes.
Thank you. Yes, I think I will just make a quick comment on this, that we argue for equal treatment, for fair treatment. Our problem, we think that the discriminatory treatment that is meted out to different countries makes all these organizations, NSG or Wassenaar arrangement or Australia group, as cartels, because they are doing a kind of monopoly of keeping those they want to keep and keeping out those they want to keep out. And that is not fair, because Pakistan has played by the rules, has been a very diligent and scrupulous observer of the international norms, even though Pakistan is not party to the NPT, again for the reason that it is discriminatory. The NPT is the ultimate epitome of discrimination in the international nuclear order. So anyway, another question, quickly.
Round, and recently Ashley Tellis in his work asked for it, and in a recent article in Foreign Affairs, there was a writer who, while summarizing the Ashley Tellis work, he said that United States should provide India with its nuclear fusion bomb design. So, Indian, you can say, lobbyists are going so far ahead. So my question is both from Sir Jaspal and also from Ambassador Coker, that what Pakistan, from Sir Jaspal, that what would be the options for Pakistan if United States provide India with a nuclear fusion bomb design, or what efforts can Pakistan make, from Mr. Coker, and what efforts Pakistan can make on the diplomatic fronts? What can be diplomatic options for Pakistan in wake of any of this decision? Thank you.
Yeah. I think that what Pakistan needs and what Pakistan does not need, this is the first point. Second, when we look about this domain of strategic competition, we don't need to match. Pakistan is a nuclear weapon state, but Pakistanis have failed to act as a mature, confident nuclear power. We have to act. We have to not follow always any kind of a thing which is happening in the nuclear domain. Since the 1998, Pakistan, I have been a part of that school of thought that Pakistan must be proactive. But proactive doesn't mean go for a testing. Proactive means we disassociate ourselves or certain issues which are useful, required for our security. We can go, not wait for India, and which are not useful, we do not give the chance that if they deal with India, we are dead. This is the way of looking at it. In my understanding about the fission and fusion, Pakistan's deterrence is working well. We are in an era where delivery systems makes a difference, not the yield of the weapon. Second, we are in an era which we call it new emerging technologies, third nuclear generation, where the people are not discussing non-nuclear strategic weapons. This is a domain where Pakistan needs to focus rather than fusion power. And that finally is, if India go for testing, this is Ashley Tellis, or there are many Indian diaspora. These scholars are there, and unfortunately in my country, my business community is ready to go for philanthropists, but not invest in research and development or educational project. So Ashley Tellis type people have been enjoying the indirectly money coming towards these chairs, and there, maybe not at the like in the USIP or in the others, the Indian jails, so naturally they have to lobby for it. Let's see, I welcome it, the American sheer nuclear fusion model or a time with India, I welcome it. It will be a first, you can say, a breakthrough in the nuclear weapons trade, which has no precedent. Americans will not. I should tell us just wait. The basic is, on 13th May, Indian announced that they had a hydrogen bomb test, and then it took them for years, almost in 2011, one of the scientists said it was a fizzled bomb. From that time, they were with their hydrogen bomb, and now they are struggling for that. So Pakistan shall not be in a panic. I believe the world shall not be in a panic. We must focus on what we need to better India. We must focus, yes, technological evolution is important, but it doesn't mean after the nuclear we must be relaxed. We have to be a relaxed approach, but with a caution. Thank you.
Thank you. Master Aftab, are you going to address the question?
Just to, first of all, to endorse Dr. Jaspal's point of view that we should not panic. That is the key advice. But our objective is what is the rationale of our, of course, in Vienna, my mandate is not to talk about the nuclear weapons program, but that as a Pakistan's diplomat, our key objective is to maintain our nuclear deterrence with India. So whether India conducts a test or not, we need to evaluate our own capability and determine the requirements, what should we do to maintain that deterrence. So if a test requires a response, our policy makers, the CISS, are already thinking on these lines. So it's not a question of responding to India's test, rather determining our own national security requirements, and that will be the guide for our decision. Diplomatically speaking, yes, we should always highlight these points, coming up with different articles, magazines, to make a point to our counterparts in different parts of the world that look, the conduct of India as a state, is it a responsible attitude? Is it a responsible decision? And that is where our diplomacy must continue, regardless of the developments. That is part of our foreign policy objective also, to demonstrate Pakistan as a responsible nuclear weapons state, as a state which acquired nuclear weapons due to security imperatives, not to acquire status. And that is where we distinguish with India, that India's nuclear weapon program, supported by other countries, is a status driven, not a security driven. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I please?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I would just remind the question that there are several layers of national security, and I believe that our diplomats are at the forefront, and they are defending the homeland, particularly those dealing with the multilateral issues in Geneva, in Vienna, in The Hague, in New York, and we must have confidence in their efforts. And then here in Pakistan we need to build awareness, as Sir Cooper has already mentioned, and I think as a think tank, CISS can play a key role in this regard.
And which will be the last, and then I will conclude. So, if anybody has a question, please go ahead. It seems that they are very satisfied with the presentations, and there doesn't seem to be any other question. Therefore, I will conclude and make a few remarks that should round it off. It has been a worthy discussion on this silver jubilee of Youm-e-Takbeer that we have observed today. I am indebted and thankful to Ambassador Aftab Khokhar, who joined us virtually from Vienna and gave valuable remarks. Aftab Sahab, we will cut the cake of Silver Jubilee in a very short while, and we will miss you because you have contributed to our discussion and you certainly deserve a good slice.
So if you please repeat the message was.
Acha. I will conclude this session by some remarks. It has been a very worthy discussion on the Silver Jubilee of Youm-e-Takbeer, and I am indebted and thankful to Ambassador Aftab Khokhar, who joined us virtually from Vienna and gave his valuable remarks. Ambassador Aftab, we will be cutting the cake of Silver Jubilee in a short while, so we will miss you, and I wish we could furnish to you a slice of this important cake that we intend to have amongst us.
I will enjoy the virtual taste.
Yes, I think they say that there will be a time when you can even transmit or communicate or transfer physical items from one place to another. So anyway, till that happens, we will miss you. Dr. Jaspal made some valuable remarks on the South Asian strategic environment and the question of nuclear tests, which is directly related to the event that we commemorate today. Two gentlemen stepped out at the last minute before this event due to some commitments. So I am grateful to Dr. Athiya to stand in their place at very short notice, and she did justice to the subject of elaborating the peaceful uses of nuclear energy in Pakistan. On Youm-e-Takbeer, we recall two key aspects of Pakistan's comprehensive security. One is the creation of Pakistan's nuclear program is the backbone of our security and the guarantor of our peace and stability. So we therefore salute all who made this possible. Pakistan has been a great supporter of nuclear non-proliferation, a stance that it still maintains and has practically exhibited by utilizing nuclear energy for peaceful purposes. But it was the imbalanced security environment in South Asia that compelled Pakistan to develop nuclear weapons. This step was needed, as Dr. Jaspal said, reluctant. He used the word reluctant nuclear power. This step was needed to restore mutual deterrence in the region, which India had destabilized by its nuclear tests. We have always maintained that our nuclear program is focused mainly on deterring India from targeting our territorial integrity and sovereignty. India's intransigence in resolving the Kashmir dispute and its conventional and nuclear capabilities were some of the other significant factors which influenced our decision to undertake nuclear tests. On the peaceful side, our nuclear and space programs are playing an important role in the national socio-economic development process in the fields of medicine, agriculture, research, and energy. It helps us to leapfrog towards achieving United Nations Sustainable Development Goals in an efficient and sustained manner. Pakistan is also investing extensively to improve its socio-economic landscape by developing indigenous capabilities and human resource. So it is a day to resolve to work with zeal and commitment to achieve our national goals. All proponents of a peaceful, stable and developed region as well as the world must join hands with us and reject any pessimism. I thank you all for having joined us today and making valuable contributions. We have earned our tea and cake, and I must not stand between you and the tea. So let's move forward and thank the Almighty for having made us capable of acquiring nuclear technology and nuclear bomb. Thank you.
Thank you.
थोड़ा सा हमने ऐसे भी हो गया
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. और आप लोग काट लें।
कैसे रहा? न्यूक्लियर कहाँ तक पहुँचाया? Thank you. Thank you.
आइए, अब आइए।